Math is the one that gets people. Sure, we worry about reading, then they learn to read. Or we worry about socialization, and then they make a few friends and we get connected. But math, that's the biggie. It's the one that has layer upon layer of worry. First, it's little kid math. Then it's fractions and geometry. Then it's high school level math. And that triggers all kinds of stuff for us, right? Math. Because math feels like the one subject you can't afford to mess up. And if you're trying something different, if you're not using a curriculum, this is usually the place where the doubt creeps in. All those voices from your past school experiences start telling you math has to be learned in a certain order or you're off track. Or math is hard and no one likes it. So you just have to make yourself endure. And now make your kids do the same, in spite of what actual math you're using in your real adult life. So instead of countering all these false ideas, I want to show you something. Just a regular day. Let's follow a teen through their normal day. No lessons, no curriculum, just life as it's actually happening, and we'll look for the math. Before we do, if you're new, I'm Sue Patterson, and this is the Unschooling Mom to Mom podcast. I try to come in here each week to give you a little pep talk to help you see that unschooling really does work. My weekly has kind of fallen off because I've been really involved with doing daily voice notes with my Creating Confidence Daily app. So if you'd like a little encouragement every morning, you could always come on into that. I'll leave links for it in the show notes. But I have resources from 30 years of unschooling, courses, private communities, coaching, guides, books, all the things that can help you figure out how to actually do this unschooling thing. So today we're talking typical day for math. Where does math weave through? Ready? They wake up around 8 o'clock if they have to be somewhere. I heard you laughing. I know your teens are sleeping late. But if they have to be somewhere, they'll get up early. And then they hit the snooze button, knowing that buys them exactly 9 minutes. Already doing that quick mental calculation, how much time do I really have? They're thinking through the morning without writing anything down. How long will breakfast take? If I leave by this time, will it still be cool enough at the skate park? They scoop the dog food, same measuring cup they always use, because they know what enough looks like. By 9 o'clock, they're heading out. They check the weather app, not for fun. They're trying to figure out when the temperature is going to spike. How long do I have before it's miserable out there? They text a friend, meet at 9:30, but that includes drive time, getting ready, whether the other person is actually on time. There's a lot of estimation happening before the day even starts. So at the skate park, they're not thinking, I'm doing math, but they're adjusting distances for tricks, figuring out how much runway they need, how fast they need to go to land something clean. They try something, they miss it, they adjust, they try again, and that's data. That's iteration, that's math. Later, back home, Minecraft. Now it's resource management. How many blocks do I need? How long will this take to build? What's the ratio to turn raw materials into something useful? They're planning, converting, estimating inside something they actually care about. Lunchtime, splitting food, portioning leftovers, looking at labels. Nothing dramatic, but it's there. Afternoon, VR games, quick trips to the store, swimming, hanging out. They're comparing prices without calling it that. Choosing the shortest checkout line based on what they see in people's carts. Dividing things evenly with friends. Timing how long they can stay before they have to start heading home. And then in the evening, helping with dinner, adjusting a recipe. How much will we need for this many people? Making sure the chairs haven't been moved to another room so there's enough. Later, gaming again. Tracking scores, timing levels, estimating how long something will take to complete. Looking at their money online. Do they have enough to get that new game? Is it on sale anywhere? And then winding down, looking at the clock, figuring out how much sleep they're going to get. Planning tomorrow without even thinking of it as planning. So yes, math is there all day in decisions, timing, estimation, adjusting, comparing. It's not separate. It's not labeled. It's just part of how they move through the day. And reading a list like this, if you look at this all laid out at the blog post, I have a few more details in there, and it usually brings a sense of relief. You can see it. You can point to it. And I want that for you. But here's what I've seen over and over again. That relief doesn't last. A few days go by, your kid has a slower week, or they're on their tablet more than usual, or nothing looks as obvious as it did in a list like this. And suddenly you're right back in your head again, wondering if you're missing something, wondering if this is enough, wondering what people would think if they saw how it really is over at your house, wondering why what you envisioned isn't happening. And that's usually when people start looking for something more structured, something they can point to, something that feels a little more solid, a little more acceptable. Remember, this is when those old voices tap into all that parent fear you have. We all have it, especially if we're isolated and we don't realize that everybody has it. And that's the spiral I want to interrupt. So yes, start by noticing, seeing the math everywhere. That's step one. And it's a big one. Honestly, it might be the hardest one. You know how they talk about inertia? How that first step takes the most effort? And then things start to build a little more momentum? That's what this is. You start to see it here and there, and then a little more. And then it starts coming in a little faster. But step two, that's different. That's seeing it and believing it, even when your day doesn't look like this, even when things shift a little or a lot, because they will. Your life isn't going to look like mine or my skater boy example. Why would it? Different kids, different rhythms, different interests, different everything. And I think this is the part I like the most about my membership group. It's not about finding the way to do it. It's about seeing it done a lot of different ways. I remember when I first started, I picked the brains of as many people as I could. And I'd listen and I'd think, okay, I like some of what they're saying, but the rest, no. And that didn't hurt anything. It didn't confuse me. It actually helped because I was starting to figure out what fit for me as I was unpacking all the things I was carrying with me about learning and school and kids and parenting. And actually, some of those things I was so sure I'd never do, those are exactly the things I ended up doing a year or so later. And hearing all those different ways people approach this, that's what helped me widen my view of what's actually possible. Because when you can see it in a variety of ways, you start to recognize your own version when it shows up. And that's the part that builds real confidence. Not just seeing math in a list like this at the blog post, but seeing it in your life, in your version, with your crafty kid or your kid who's a gamer, and trusting that it counts. So yes, start with noticing. Let that be step one. And if you want help getting to that next step, where you're not just seeing it, but you're actually trusting it, that's what the math course or the membership are there for. So if math is the piece that you just can't quite let go of, that's exactly why I built Learning Math Without Curriculum. It's not just examples like this. It helps you recognize in real time, connect it to actual skills, and stop questioning it every time the day looks a little different. And inside the membership, you're not trying to figure that out alone. You're hearing from other parents who had that same sticking point. I like this, except for math. And over time, through real conversations, you start to sort out what actually matters for your kid and your home and your situation. There's no dogma, just people figuring it out together. So if you read through a list, like seeing the math in this typical day, and you think, okay, I see it, but I don't know if I trust it yet, that's completely normal. That's where most people are. And if you want help with that piece, I'll leave the links below. And if nothing else, just start noticing. See where you get stuck. Lean towards this flexible way of looking at math. You don't have to solve it all right now, just a little more than you did before. That's it for this week. Happy unschooling, and I'll see you next time.